With society's endless expectations upon you and mental health and anxiety issues on the rise, finding your true authentic self can be challenging. Being your true self is a key and never a mistake because you are not a mistake. You are you, unapologetically. Join Dr. Kim R. Grimes as she creates a safe space and initiates influential conversations about you being you. Listen to discussions featuring step-by-step guides, techniques, and principles that you can sink your teeth into about uncovering your greatness, triggering a mindset shift, and living beyond your limiting beliefs. The time to connect with who you were created to be and fall madly, did I say madly, in love with you starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Kim R. Grimes.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to You Are You Unapologetically podcast. You guys know that here we empower people to uncover their greatness, to find their true identity, and to own who they were created to be. See, because we believe by revealing and understanding your greatness, you will fall madly, did I say madly? In love with who you are. In the post-COVID era, I'm witnessing, and I know you guys are as well, and we have said this over in previous episodes, witnessing so much dishonesty, untruthfulness, increase in violence, and so much more. I'm quite sure, like I said, I'm not by myself here when I say this. And because of this, I want to continue our conversation on personal integrity. So our listeners, you guys, you know about the phrase structural integrity. And we stated before that structural integrity is a building science phrase, right? We're not talking about structural integrity. That phrase is really a technical definition, or the technical definition of structural integrity is the ability of a structure to withstand its intended load without failing due to fracture or fatigue. And we, unfortunately, we all have seen a structure integrity failure in Miami. And I think it was like last summer when we heard about it. We saw what happened when the structure was cracked and it could not handle or bear its load. So this series is not about that at all. This series, we're talking about personal integrity, because what we know is this, like, we are quick to excuse our personal lack of integrity. We're real quick with that, but we're not quick to excuse the breach of integrity when it comes to others, especially loved ones, especially our friends and our leaders. We're not quick, right, to excuse that. So the question is, what is integrity? And do you have it? If not, if you don't have integrity, now the question becomes, then what's guiding you? And so our topic of this episode is your integrity or your appetite. So what's guiding you? Is it your integrity or is it your appetite? So I want to make sure that all our listeners have a better understanding of what are we talking about integrity, and when we say personal integrity. So here's my definition. I got a couple, so bear with me. Integrity is the resolve and the courage to do right and the noble thing, just because it's right and noble, right? That's it. Integrity is the will, the courage, like I said, to do it the right thing because. But here's the thing, regardless of the consequences, regardless of any consequences, integrity is a universal, inescapable expectation that assumes and ought to. Let me say that one more time. Integrity is a universal, inescapable expectation that assumes an ought to. We ought to do right. So in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 3, I'm coming from the New American Standard Bible Version, and it says, the integrity of the upright will guide them, but the crookedness of the treacherous will destroy them. We know we ought to do right when we don't. What we do, and if we don't, what will happen? It will eventually destroy us. Just like the structural integrity, the failure of your personal integrity, it impacts other people, especially those around you, right? Even more so, it impacts those who are closest to you. So does your integrity guide you? I don't know. Here's the challenge. We don't know if integrity guides us, if integrity guides you until maintaining it costs you. When it costs you something, that's when you will know if it guides you or not. So it's okay, like, to make a mistake. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We just get back up. It's okay, but it's not okay to cover it up. It's not okay to act as if nothing happened, right? Your integrity is so much more important than your infallibility. The respect from others is contingent on your integrity and not your failures or mistake. So the crookedness of the lack of your integrity will destroy you and the people that are around you. Again, the question is, what guides you? See, I want you to think about that. We all know the lack of integrity is personal, but it is not private. It's not private because it impacts the people that are around you. So why is maintaining integrity so hard? Why is it so hard? This is why we're here today. And that is because our appetite, your appetite, my appetite, we always want more. We want more stuff, more attention, more responsibility, more money, more food, more sex, to say the least. Our appetites pose a constant threat to our integrity just about every single day, because we have to say no to one in order to protect or satisfy the other. In order to satisfy an appetite, this is a constant tension that we live with every day on multiple levels. So in other words, we have to say no to our appetite, sometimes to protect our integrity, or we say no to our integrity, right? But we can't do both. We can't do both. So that's what we're talking about, you guys. That's why you're here tonight. We're still, and you all know that our series, the way we have this set up is, instead of having multiple guests come in and talk about a lot of different topics, we have multiple guests come in and we want to talk about the same topic. And the reason for that is because we want different perspectives. We know that from a different perspective, whatever, my perspective may not suit you, but someone else's perspective may. And so that's why, because we want to reach a much larger, diverse of listeners. Now that I said all that, let me introduce you to our guests for this episode. Let me introduce you to my friend. But before I do that, I want you to know about him. I want to share something about him before I go in and tell you, his name and bring him on. Let me set the stage, right? So our guest tonight, his name is Michael Kraus. He is the Chief Operating Officer. And Michael, if I pronounce your name wrong, the last name wrong, because I be chopping up, my listeners know I be chopping up names, please let me know. But he's the Chief Operation Officer of Tovuti. Tovuti is the #1 ranked learning management system, LMS, you guys. And you can Google it, right? #1 ranked learning management system. It is A to Z solution, right? And it has everything from housing content to knowledge-based libraries, course and course content creation, live learning, reporting, and so much more. Michael, he began his career on the technical side of things, which I'm loving because, you know, I'm a techie, closet techie, you guys, right? I always say I'm that closet geek. So he started his on the technical side with his degree in computer science. Likewise, well, right? And later he achieved his MBA, and today is in the process of his doctorate degree, right? So I can't wait to call you Dr. Krause. I can't wait. He worked at Microsoft on the original .NET framework. And so for techies like me, I know what that is. I know what that is. And for those who don't, it's been around for a minute. And so that's okay. And so he worked on the .NET framework team as a software design engineer. Michael has worked with many amazing brands to ensure the success of their missions. And we're talking about brands like Nike, Apple, eBay, Microsoft, Google, White House, the NFL, Tesla, SpaceX, NBC, BBC, the Grammys, Warner Brothers, Michael Page, Veterans Affairs, and the Department of Defense, just to name a few. But Michael's claim of fame, y'all, like his claim of fame, like what he is known for, like what he is really all about, he is known for being a family man, married to his best friend, Sherry. And he also has five amazing children and 5 grandchildren. Michael was born in Los Angeles and raised in the Northwest. He loves outdoors, kayaking, camping, hiking, and mountain biking. Michael and Cherie love to travel and explore the world. Wait, let me tell you guys, I just need to share this because I want you to know, because when you introduce a chief operating officer, you may think, oh, he's all up here or she's all up here, but I want you to know what his job description is. So he's responsible for all client onboarding, account management, support, and customer service. And I'm emphasizing that for a reason, and I'll get back with you on that one, you guys, right? He is responsible for contributing to the executive leadership across all teams and departments to see that Taguti and their incredible clients, team, and partners realize world-class experience. Please help me to welcome my guest, my friend, Michael, soon to be Dr. Krause. Michael, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let's jump in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. It's my honor and privilege to be here. And aside from all that, which was amazing, and I just got to say, I'm a child of God. Mm-hmm. I'm a forever learner, yes, and a humble servant, right? And so if I can't add value to those that are in my life, my children, my family, my friends, my community, then I am missing the mark. Yeah. So super excited about our conversation today. I think integrity is at the heart of self-health, first and foremost. And it's at the heart of a healthy community, irregardless of it's a work or family or other. We're talking about the heart of ourselves and our healthiness today, and integrity it's important.
Yes, it is definitely key. So before we jump into our discussion, I would love for you to share, how did we meet?
Gosh, it's easy to say, Dr. Kim was looking for an LMS and we got to introduce each other through that process. But I think the how is so much greater than that. I think that, God has plans to bring
Mm.
lives together. Like I
Yes.
said earlier, he's the great influencer
Yes.
of our lives and of our communities and of our journeys. And I think that this was something that he planned. He
Mhm.
wanted iron to sharpen iron in that context. And I think that when we allow ourselves to listen,
Mm.
and to step out of the business of some of our meetings, we meet hundreds of people sometimes in a single day through 15-minute meetings, and 20 of those 15-minute meetings we get caught up in the busyness of it. But every once in a while we listen
Mm.
and we pause, and there's so much more there to unpack and to experience. And I think this was one of those.
Yes, 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 yes. And I agree 100%, so I like Michael said, was looking for an LMS, didn't know, and stumbled upon it and did not know Tavuti at all. And so it was during the pandemic, and I thought I was ready and wasn't ready. And let me tell you, they gave me so much grace. So much grace. And I see why, right? Because under your leadership, it was so much grace, and I'm still grateful for it. So it's like meeting you. It was like when you eat Cracker Jacks and you got the prize, and you're like, the prize is so much better than the Cracker Jacks, right? Like that. To be honestly, that is it. Like I'm like, yay, yay. So like I told you time and time again, it's an honor to know you. It's an honor. Like I'm so grateful. And I agree with you as well when you say this is definitely what God is calling us to do. So hey, to me, he allowed us our paths to cross. So let's jump into the discussion. But here's what I want. I want you to share. This is the question that I use to lead into the discussion, and it's really about the title of the podcast, right? Um, what does it mean to you, Michael, to be you unapologetically? See, we got to answer that question first, because that's the title of the
I,
podcast. You
I
are you
love it.
unapologetically, right? So
Yeah, I
let's
love it.
jump in. Let's jump in with that question first.
Yeah, I think that authenticity, right, is so important. And that's part of why I've chosen to align myself, with the current founder and company, is because we start to create versions of ourselves. And I think that fractured self is the first way we start to remove ourselves from, integrity and from wholeness and from completeness. It's so important that we align ourselves in work, in play, in family, as our united single self, right? And,
Yes.
and in that, that's how we start to become authentic. We don't make apologies for our faith. We don't make apologies for our
Right.
priorities. We don't make apologies for our values. And so it's so important that no job, no activity,
Come on.
no journey that we choose is a reduction in our values and in
Yes.
what's our priorities. And so those are not easy. They can come with complexities. But that's a first step in self-empowerment, is
Mm.
I'm not going to give up what's important to me
Yeah.
for this opportunity. No
Mm.
money, no ego, no award, no certificate is worth sacrificing who I am.
Absolutely. And so would you say that you are happy with who you are, or would you say that you're still working to become that person that you want to be?
I'm happy with who I'm becoming every day, right? And I think that, as we think about from a faith perspective,
Mhm.
we're all on a journey.
Yes.
And I believe my journey is not going to end on this planet, right?
Right.
In this lifetime. And so I have to believe, and I have to practice that belief, kind of like up here, like, great things. And
Right.
for great things to happen, I have to have a North Star, and my North
Mm.
Star, he guides that, right? And that reinforces my values and my authentic, unapologetic me.
Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. So share with me if there were, and I'm quite sure there have been some incidents or situations that had occurred in your life that caused you to choose either your appetite over your integrity, or your integrity over your appetite.
I think that when we think about the appetite, sometimes it's literally like driven by our needs, right? Our physical needs, and the challenge. And I come back and I relate this to almost from a biblical context. We
Okay.
have a couple different examples that are pretty significant, and there's a big contrast, in that. One of them that I love is Joseph, right? And so
Yes.
Joseph was confronted with his physical needs all the time,
Yes.
whether it was being approached and propositioned by another man's wife, or power, right, or
Yes.
wealth. He chose from integrity what was right, and he fled what was wrong. And so in our lives, I think there's times, and mine too, right, where those challenges are like, gosh, I could take this job, and I could take this money, and have made those mistakes,
Yes.
and being authentic in that. Joseph gives us an example of that pure making the right choice. But then we have David, right? And David is recognized as a person that's after God's own heart, right?
Come on now. Right.
And God loved David, and David made mistake after mistake, right? But David was so quick to recognize, and so transparent, like, world, notice, PSA, right? I did not make the right decision, and was instantly back in God's favor. And so I think that there's this truth in choosing right, and choosing right away, right? And so we're not always going to see the immediate implications of a bad choice, but when we do, we really do owe it to ourselves and to our family and communities to really make those corrections and make them out loud, so that we can be a model and demonstrate that we understand how to turn ourselves back. And the last piece I'll say is really important is, and my stepdad was a pilot in the Navy, and also a avionics technician, owned his own company. And so I got to spend a lot of time in my early years working with him, and an amazing individual, but an attitude, right? An attitude, we think of it, do we have a good attitude? But for an airplane, it's this 360 view of our place in space. And it's not that we are, from an airplane trajectory, we're never exactly on target, but we're always driving to that target and that North Star. There's a constant and continuous correction that's taking place. And that's how we position ourselves and our integrity on those right things. And the right thing is in here. Outside doesn't determine what's right. Inside determines what's right. Outside is distractions and influence, but inside there is a North Star and truth that I believe in. And if I make choices against my own beliefs, that's when things start to break down. That's when my internal structures, my internal healthiness starts to take the impact, and it starts to degrade, right? Because I'm making decisions that I know are not right. And I'm suffering the consequences along with my family, my community.
Yes. And that goes right into the question that I was going to ask, like, how does that impact you? And you shared that. And then the people that are around you, and I always say the decisions that we make, whether good or bad, they're going to have impact on those who are around us, those people that are around us, especially those who are closer to us. And so you hit the nail on the head, how you shared how if there's a breakdown within you, it not only impacts you, it's going to your family, your community, all of them are going to see it and feel it as well. And so with that, what advice would you give? Can we give someone who is struggling, or who is trying to find and maintain their integrity when the world is trying to tell them who to be, or they don't really know who they are? How can we, what can you say to those people who are struggling in that space?
Great question. And when I'm mentoring or I'm coaching, young people, and there's a couple of young men, including my sons in my life that I'm always mentoring, my daughters, and encouraging them, is the very first step in understanding integrity and having a North Star, understanding what is right and wrong, is we each have to decide what's our source of truth. What's the authority and authoritative truth in our lives? And it may be different, right? Never everybody may share my beliefs and my values. But for me, I have chosen that authoritative source of truth. And so once you've chosen that authoritative source of truth, you have to practice it and live it, and you'll know because you'll have a conscientious reaction internally. When you do something, you'll have shame. That shame it can be an indicator that you're going outside of it. And then the next piece, I think that's really important. There was an amazing sermon that my family got to witness on Sunday, and that was all about our identity. Integrity and identity are really integrated on levels that it's really difficult to grasp, but they're really codependent. And if we have a source of truth, and in my beliefs, my case, that is in Jesus and God and the Bible, and I live that truth, and I have an identity based on that truth. And if those are in alignment, everything's working great, right? There's a joy. It's deeper than a happiness, right? It's a joy, and it's in a completeness day in, day out. And in those places, storms can come. We can experience loss. We can experience disappointment. We're not going to win all the time, and it's okay, because we have a foundation in our source of truth and our identity. Who am I, right? And if we can understand those two things, and I look at the world, I look at the brokenness, and you mentioned, there's violence, and there's a disrespect for life, and for all the things that many of us hold dear, right? Not all of us promote it necessarily in the same way, right? But we all agree that my life, my relationships, my community, my family are so important. And then we see violence that comes against that. In most cases, as they unpack those things, you'll find that the individuals that are perpetrating that, they struggle. They don't have a clear identity. They don't have a clear source of truth or authority inside them to guide them in right and wrong. And so the world has more and more questions right now, because there's a lack of strong source of truth and strong source of identity. And those, to me, are how we live our integrity, is by understanding, because otherwise there's not a right and wrong. It's all up for grabs. It's all ambiguous. And can you imagine a compass that doesn't have a north? I mean, I even wrote an article about it, and you can see the compass and the attitude. And if we don't have a North Star, what guides us?
Exactly. And so, you just unpacked so much and gave our listeners so much juiciness that they can just, eat for days. And so thank you for that. I love like you put together the integrity and identity, like that is entwined. And one of the reasons why I do what I do is help people to uncover their greatness, so that they can see who they are, so that they can find their true identity, so that they can be who God created them to be, right? Like that's what drives me. That's why when I open my mouth and I'm interacting with people and I'm saying, hey, what is it that you love about yourself? What is it that you admire about yourself? What is it that you like about yourself? What is it that you appreciate about yourself? When I ask those questions, I'm asking them so that they can begin to start uncovering, right? Because life, as it happens, it covers up. And before you know it, all of the greatness that we were created with in our mama's womb gets covered up, and we can't see it. And so my goal, my drive, my determined. I'm determined to help people to uncover it so that they can uncover their greatness, find their true identity, and be who God created them to be. And so you just unpacked it for us in a way that was so scrumptious, and I really really appreciate that. So what I would love for you to do is, in what ways, is there any ways now that you find it being challenging in any way to walk in integrity? And how has walking in integrity, two questions, how has walking in integrity made your life better?
Mm, I love that. I think the challenges that we all, and you talked about appetite, and I think that's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
what are the temptations, what are the vices that we drag with us, every day, that are very human, aspects that we're all confronted with.
Right.
And I think that the cost of allowing those appetites to lead our decisions, to lead our associations, our relationships, is that we will see degradation in our relationships. There'll be trust issues. There'll be an overly focus on the superficial, right?
Yes.
And not the person. And so anything that pulls us away from plumb line is a great reference, right? That there's a plumb line that represents a perfect alignment of
Yes.
ourself with God, our source of truth, and with integrity, what's right and wrong, right? And how we manage that. And when that looks right, and just some self-management. So when I was a young man and learning and discovering and declaring, hey, this is my source of truth. Christ is my source of truth. That's my anchor. That's my plumb line.
Yes.
And with that, I can understand that I am chosen. That I am perfect as I am. I don't need to be a different Michael in any scenario or situation, whether it's at work, whether it's at the grocery store, whether it's home. I'm the same me in Christ, right? And so that truth is my plumb line. How do I overcome the appetite? How do I overcome the challenges and temptations? And that's something that I discovered very young in Christ as a young adult, was that if I can start every day with a focus, right? And this is because we have so many distractions.
Yes.
We have media, we have social, we have people in our lives that maybe are a poor influence. We have our own thoughts, right? Christ brought everything back. When Christ talked about sin and corruption, he didn't talk about the things we do. That's visible, that's granted. He brought it all the way back into our thoughts in Matthew. Like, what are you thinking? Are you coveting? Are you lusting? Are you angry? Are you enraged? All these things. And here is where it begins in Corinthians, that we're called to hold every thought captive. So in my young mind, I was thinking, gosh, if it's a battle of the mind, right? Romans, then how do I set my compass every day? For me, I start my day focusing on him. I journal, I read, I draw myself back to the center of who I am. And over the years, my children began to grab onto that. They're like, oh, hey, dad's up. It's 6 a.m. What's he doing in there? I want coffee too,
Right.
So
I want to play.
Exactly. And so there's this, it's an intentional self-investment every day that says, I'm not here to bring everybody with me. I'm here because I desperately need to refocus my life, because there's so many distractions that in the next 24 hours, the odds of being tempted, distracted, coerced, all these
misled,
misled, and having bombarded with different truths, other people's ideas, other people's priorities. How do I at least have a reset in every 24 hours? And I used to teach my children, and Sheree and I also were blessed to lead youth groups and college groups over the years. especially growing a family. Those were amazing things to participate in. But also the pause button.
Yes.
When do we get to pause and giving ourselves permissions
Come
and
on.
time, just like we exercise, right?
Yes.
We work, we want to have a healthy diet, we want to exercise. Our spirit, our self, our soul needs that reset. And
Yes.
I have chosen mornings, right? My wife is a night owl.
Right.
She'll end every day with this refocus and this reset.
Yes.
And I start every day with it. We sort of meet in the middle, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
But that, in my the way that God built and designed me, Michael, that morning drives my set and says, okay, in all your business decisions today, all your engagements, escalations, encounters, any part of my life, I'm now resetting myself to that source of truth, that plumb line. This is my integrity. This is what I believe is right and wrong. And I'm going to follow this road today. And it gives me that chance. And now throughout the day, it's a jungle, it's a journey, and all these things are happening. And I can come back and look at it the next morning and say, wow, 1,000 things happened. And 9 of those, I managed them really well. Thank you, Lord, for keeping me on that track. But wow, look at these 10%. Now I'm David. I'm trying to get these right, back on track. I'm making apologies. I'm making corrections. I'm sharing my learning lessons with my team, with my wife, with my family, and every day I grow, right? And that's the hope that we get to share, us graybacks, with the whiskers and the journey is, I need to learn how to self-correct along the way and be open to accountability. And accountability is that's a big one when it comes to integrity, because without accountability, it gets a wider swing. We get further into the appetites and we don't have it coming back. We don't have a close person, a spouse, a best friend that can say, that's not the authentic you, Michael. I know the authentic you. I know who the authentic Dr. Kim is, and that's not it. So can we get back to that, right?
Exactly. And you just gave me my next topic, because I was praying. I was like, okay, God, like what is the next, like what is the next discussions going to be about? And I'm just open. And you just shared it, accountability, because it ties in. And so I would stay tuned, listeners, because that's what's coming up next. So Michael, wow, like you, and what I love about what you shared is you were able to give it to our listeners in a way where they can, like follow it, like a recipe, or you mushed it, right? Like where it's palatable, and they can actually, don't even have to chew it. It's like applesauce. Like, I don't know anybody who chews applesauce. I know I don't. I just made me think of that. Anyway, so thank you so very much for that. What I would love for you to do, oh my gosh, what I would love for you to do is to please share with our listeners and those who are watching, how do they get in contact? If they want to get in contact with you, the soon to be Dr. Krause. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
Krause, like house.
Okay, like house. Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Because my husband, he fusses at me because I always jack up people's name, not intentionally. But how do they get in contact with you as they listen to what you're saying, and you may strike a chord within them, and they may want to, reach out and say, thank you so much for the words of wisdom. How can they do that? What do they need to do?
There's a couple ways. The absolute best way, and because of integrity, I have very controlled and limited access, right, on social for all the obvious reasons.
Yes.
And so, but LinkedIn is where I would, say, hey, professionally, that's a great way to connect. There's a lot of transparency and accountability in that environment. It's a very appropriate and business-minded, environment. And I love LinkedIn for all those reasons. If you're very adventurous, you could go hunt for Mike and Rhee on Facebook, and that you'll find my wife, my beautiful bride and best friend. and she can connect with you and give you different ways to get in contact, and that's another option. And then
Awesome.
also, of course, email, michael@iCross.com is my personal email, or Tavuti, which is all available through LinkedIn as well. But
Perfect.
yeah, if there's an opportunity for me to share or invest or answer questions, would welcome that.
Awesome. 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 Okay. So of course, whenever we get into a good conversation, we're having, such a wonderful time. Of course we have to bring it to a close when we don't want to. But what I would love for you to do, Michael, is please share some closing thoughts, some takeaways, or something, little. You've been given juicy nuggets. I've been calling them scrunches, nuggets all the entire time. So what would you like to share as a closing thoughts or comments to our listeners?
I would love to encourage everyone listening that, it's so important to know ourselves. Know thyself, right, is what they say. And I think that if you haven't found your source of truth, and like I said, we are founded in Christ, right, and the Bible and the truth that goes with that. And I think that there's no greater source of truth. That's my belief, right? But if you don't know that, like you don't know that you know that, like in your,
Right.
they would say like your heart of hearts, then you are on a journey of determining your truth. And until you have a truth, a
Yes.
fundamental proven, like there's no doubt, right? It's
Right.
going to be really difficult to operate in integrity. And you can operate in accountability, right? You can invite people, say, hey, if you see me behaving or acting, but those are very external. Those are superficial controls, not bad, not wrong. But without a source of truth, you won't be able to understand who you are. Your identity is based on your truth. And so I would encourage everyone that if you don't feel comfortable or confident in who you are,
Yes.
you need to determine your source of truth. What authority, what determines right and wrong in your life? That's what I mean by source of truth. And it's deeper than values. It's at the very, very core of who you are.
Yeah.
And in any situation, you will know this is right and wrong, and this is why. I think that our souls and our spirit helps us understand that.
Yes.
We might not understand why, but it is in us all. And so I would just encourage you to really explore that. And I know that Dr. Kim has information and resources to help you on that journey, but I would encourage you to really determine that in your life. It's so important.
Yes, it is. It is so, you're right, important. So thank you. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to end. I don't want to stop. I don't want, and I do that with all, all my guests, like, because we get into it and it's like, no, it's time, like already. So Michael, thank you so much. Soon to be Dr. Kraus. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait. I can't wait. So I'm just jumping the gun, calling you that now. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming and just pouring into our listeners. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that those who are listening, someone has been and will be moved by what you shared. And so I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to work with you, just to meet you the way that we have. Like, that's an honor for me. And so thank you again and again. And this may be the first time, but it won't be the last. I'm telling you, you will be back. I'm telling our listeners, he will be back. Just like all the other guests that we had as well, they will be back. So thank you again. And I look forward to us connecting and having more of a conversation such as this. Okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, you guys. So what we're talking about it's easy. It is so easy to lose yourself in today's clashing ideas, conflicting beliefs, and the flood of information. Michael spoke of it when he was sharing, right? With society's rigid expectations and endless opinions, self-expression and self-appreciation can feel challenging and daunting. And most of the time, what we do, we push it away. So we dumb down to it. We hide, right, who we really are, or we just go with the flow, right? But we are here to put an end to this disparaging mindset and to empower you to begin to own your authentic self. So join me here on this podcast. We create a safe space. We initiate influential conversations about being you. Yes, that's what I said about being you, because you are you unapologetically. And this is what I know. You owe no one, absolutely no one, an apology for being you, because no one, let me say it again, no one is better at being you than you. Thank you so much for listening. Looking forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Until then, you guys take care and we will connect. Bye-bye. Yay. See you guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode. May this transformational discussion shift your mindset so you can live in possibility, so you can step higher in your greatness and stand bolder in your brilliance. Do not wait another minute. Start now to uncover your greatness and begin to fall madly, did I say madly, in love with you. The journey to unleashing and owning your true self doesn't end here. Be sure to subscribe to the show at KimRGrimes.com. Leave a rating and gear up for more conversations like this one. See you on the next episode. And remember, you are not a mistake. You are you, unapologetically.